Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you just one of the ways that I Photoshop people into my renders. Cool, so let's get started. So what you want to do first is download some people that are in the positions you are looking for. For instance, I typed in man walking, PNG, and person sitting, PNG. I prefer getting people with transparent backgrounds, but that's up to you. If you want to bring them into Photoshop and delete the white backgrounds, that's also perfectly fine. Cool, so we've got two people here. So I'm going to bring this guy in. And I'm just going to press Control A, Control C, bring him into this layer, file, and then Control V. Alright, so we are going to have him walking down this passage. So I'm going to press Control T to transform and scale him down so it looks like an appropriate height for him. And then I will just flip him horizontally. Cool. Let's just... We can also transform perspective him a little bit. Don't know if it might look a bit distorted. Alright. So what I like to do in my renders is make the people that are walking kind of have a blurred effect. So firstly I'll go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, and then we have this little panel over here. So here you can change the angle of the blur and the amount. So I usually do it about there, just not to hurt the eyes, and then in the direction that he's walking in. And do it a bit more. Cool. I just like to do that so you don't focus on the person, you rather focus on the render. But he is there. So then to create a shadow, I'll duplicate that guy and Control T again to transform and hold Shift and just bring him down like this. Enter, and then just put this underneath where you think the shadow looks suitable. Then you pull that layer underneath his layer, go to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, bring the saturation and lightness down, and then we have a solid black layer, which is great. Then what you want to do is put a blur on that, so you go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and yeah, you can play around a bit. I do it medium, just to kind of give a bit of a blurred effect, but still keep the shape of that layer. Once you've done that, you bring the opacity down. So to determine how much you want the shadow to be showing, I kind of look at my render and look at the shadows forming there, and you kind of match that opacity. So that looks pretty good. And then if you'd like, you can also bring his opacity down a little bit, just so he's blending into the background there. Cool. So now that he's done, I'm going to bring in this lady. So she's going to be sitting on this bench. I just dragged and dropped her into the scene. And then once again, I'm going to press Control T to transform her horizontally. Press OK. And we're going to scale her down. So we'll scale her down to her foot sitting on the floor. And then what we can also do is edit, transform, warp, and we can kind of just warp her foot to be a bit more flat on the ground. Cool. Okay, she might be a bit big. Let's just scale her down slightly. Right, then we need to put her behind this table. So if you bring her opacity down, just so you can see the table, we'll go to the layer of the render. Select that, and then delete, go back to her layer, delete. Oh, sorry, she's this layer. We'll just rasterize her first, and delete. Cool, now we can bring her opacity up, just to see how that's looking. She still looks slightly big, so I'm just going to undo that and just bring her scale down a little bit. Alright, and let's just bring her foot down a bit more. Cool. Let's just do that again. So we'll select around the table and go back to the render layer and delete. Oh, sorry, not to the render layer, to her layer. Delete. Alright. So now that we have her in place, she also needs a shadow. So we'll duplicate her, just like we did with the guy walking. Control T, bring her down. And we'll just kind of place her shadow there. Alright, so we'll bring her, that layer underneath her layer. And we'll do the same thing. We do have that little gap now, but once you've kind of blurred it, you won't really see it. So adjustments, hue and saturation. Saturation and lightness down. If you want, you can always just hit the brush tool, select the black, and maybe just color that in. Just make it a bit more black. Just to fill that in. Alright, before you add the blur, maybe just delete that, just so you don't have the shadow over the table. And then once again, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and can make that about 6.6. And we bring that opacity down as well to something that looks a bit more realistic. Cool. She also kind of needs a bit of a shadow underneath where she's sitting. So we can do the same process, just duplicate her, bring her underneath, just bring her saturation and lightness down. You won't see too much of it, but just slightly. Put a blur on her. And then what you can kind of do is erase. We'll take it all the way down, and then we'll just erase in this instance, just so you can see it forming there a little bit and behind her. And then if you want, you can also bring her opacity down. That's up to you. And there we have it.